in a relationship, women will basically mirror back to you whatever you give. So this is my experience having, done the dating and the single thing for like 20 plus years, and then having just a ton of relationships with the opposite sex, okay? So your boy's definitely gotten after it. So women will basically mirror back to you whatever you give in the relationship. Now, I'm not talking about the front end courtship process. That's totally different. That's where you're using humor, frame, teasing, pushing them away, basically spinning up your own energy, self-amusing, being in your own vibe, all the attraction stuff is different than what I'm going to share in this video, which is that when you are in a relationship with a woman, her system is basically going to mirror back whatever you give. So if you are making her feel safe, if you are sending love, if you are creating sexual desire, then all of that is going to get mirrored back to you. So transparently, I don't know why this is. I don't really know why it works this way, but what I can say is, in my experience of being in committed relationships with women, they will basically mirror back to you whatever it is that you're giving them, okay? Now, it takes men a while to understand this. Now, it's kind of painful for us because as guys, we tend to be a little bit more disconnected. We're just kind of out there doing our thing, and then we're with someone and going through it or whatever, and then it basically gets kicked back to us. It gets kicked back to our system, and we're what is happening? Why is this occurring? So in this video, what I want to do is cover what's actually happening here, which is basically, as a guy, whatever you give in that relationship, their system is going to mirror it back to you. And so one of the things you can do is basically if you're with a girl and you're feeling some type of way, you can ask yourself okay, how have I been showing up, and what have I been giving? What have I been putting into this? What have I basically, you kind of reap what you sow on this front, right? So you kind of ask yourself okay, based off how I'm feeling right now, what have I been giving? What have I been putting into this? Because that's basically what is getting mirrored back to you is, hey, however you show up here, their system is basically just gonna kick it back to you. And this is a pretty painful lesson for guys, because this is also why guys will basically get left. They'll be in a relationship and the woman will be gone. They'll leave the relationship and the guy's what? What happened? And it's yo, homie, you've basically been disconnected. You haven't been showing up. You haven't been listening to her, and you're surprised. And this comes as a shock to guys because honestly, we're pretty disconnected, and I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean by that is to be a guy, it's it's a little bit of a rougher world, dude. It isn't like it is for the girls. You talk to a girl, they're oh yeah, everyone's nice. It's yeah, that's because they want to fuck you. So as a guy, it's we tend to be a little bit disconnected because you kind of need to be, dude. It's just what it is, right? So then you're in a relationship with a girl, and the girl will even tell you yeah, I want you to be soft and loving towards me, but I want you to be a savage towards everyone else. So even that is another part of it that makes it difficult, right? So to go back to it, they will mirror back to you. And as guys, it's kind of hard to understand what's occurring because you're what is happening? I'm in this relationship and all of a sudden this woman is being cold, or this woman is not listening to me. Let me give you an example. I was watching a couple, husband and wife, friends of mine, and the husband was kind of sharing about a thing that was upsetting, and the wife kind of cut him off and was like, well, you just need to like do whatever. Most people would see that and be like, oh, well, the wife is like just not holding space. It's like, yeah. Why do you think that is? It's because she's mirroring back to him, right? So like every time that she had gone to him to talk about things, he just kind of rushed her. And so he comes to me to talk about it, and he's like, dude, like she like wouldn't, like let me do. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's because that's what you've done, dude. Like she's just mirroring back to you what you've done to her. That's a small example. It's not like the person or the wife or the girlfriend in this instance is like doing it in some mean sort of way. It just, they're giving you back what you've given. And so if what you've given is uncertainty, lack of safety, right? Like not really listening, it's like, what do you think is going to happen? The other thing is like, they're pretty patient. Like they'll ask for it like, numerous times. They'll like kind of stick in there and they'll like, talk like about like, hey, here's what I want, here's what I need. And as guys, we're just like so fucking obtuse. And so we don't really listen. And then, we're surprised when she bounces, when she's like not there anymore. But it's like, dude, what did you expect? You know what I mean? And this is like a really common complaint that I hear from women when they talk about their partners, which is like, he doesn't listen to me, like, and it's like, then the woman is like cold or leaves a relationship or doesn't give a lot of emotional space. And the guy's like, what? Like, and hey, I'm not hating. I've done the same thing, homie. Like, I get it. So let me like flip it, which is for guys, it's like, you're in your own lane, like you're in your own frame, you're the man, you're running it. And so it is hard to hear because you're just like, yeah, I'm the man, I'm doing it. And like the testosterone in your brain and like the certainty of it. And you're like, I'm just doing my thing. And so it is hard to hear. Like this is one of the difficulties, which is like, women will be attracted to a guy with like a strong frame that's just like, on his path, on his purpose and certain. And then they're surprised that he doesn't listen that much. It's like, well, what do you expect? He's basically shut off because you have to as a guy. It's like, that's where the confidence comes from. You're like, no. Like, here's what it is. Here's what the deal is. And you're like full tilt going forward on it, right? So it's just like really interesting dynamic between the two where it's like, okay, this is like what attracted in the first place. But then when you get into like a relationship, it's like, well, the guy's like struggling to listen, you know what I mean? And like struggling to like, kind of like hear what what the partner has to say, And so it's one of these things where it takes practice, right? Like you're used to kind of like running your own thing. And then like now you're inside of a relationship and you're like, oh yeah, shit, there's another person here. The other way that this shows up and like manifests, or the way that I see that it happens, is basically the guy's used to just making the decisions and not consulting anyone. Don't ask me how I know about this, right? Which is like, I'm so used to just like, here's what it is, and then my partner will be like, not gonna consult me on it. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I'm supposed to like bring you in on it. You know what I mean? That's another example of a guy just like being in his own frame and not really being able to hear the other side. So this is kind of like an ongoing thing that will come up in relationships, which is like, as a guy, you're in your own reality, you're in your own frame, you're in your own certainty, and it takes like some amount of being open to and being able to like listen to them and like listen to like what they have to say and like make space for it. And this shows up in a lot of ways, which is like basically whatever you give in the relationship is like what's going to get mirrored back to you. And it is a hard switch as a guy where like you're this like super dominant guy, you're super charismatic, you're super confident, you're like fucking doing your thing, you're on your own path, you're on your own purpose, and then you're like, in a relationship or pair bonded with a girl or whatever, and at that point you like, you fuck up, like you struggle because it's like, well, I have trouble like listening to this person, like hearing from this person and like responding to it. And so that's what you're giving into the relationship. And then that's what gets mirrored back to you, right? Like they tend to unplug, or they tend to like kind of shut down, or they tend to like, not really be that loving anymore. But it's because that's what you've been giving into the relationship, and it's getting mirrored back to you. But it's tough as a guy because you're used to just doing your own thing. Like you're used to just being, you know what I mean? And this is just like this really interesting part of relationships with women where it's celebrated on the front end when you're like super independent and like dominant and whatever. And then you get inside the relationship and now all of those are like terrible. You know what I mean? And so it takes a little bit of like getting used to, God, my voice cracking like I'm like a 14-year-old. It takes a little bit of getting used to like kind of get on the other side of it, of understanding like, okay, I'm still all of these other things. I'm still a dominant guy, charismatic, in my own frame, and I understand that in my relationship, the woman is going to mirror back what I give. So I'm going to try to set that aside and listen from time to time. Like I'm going to try to like put that aside and be like, okay, what are you saying to me? And like really hearing them, which even saying it, I was like, you're just like, what? Okay, like, but it is important because if you don't, it will get mirrored back. So this is a nice part of like the feedback loop, which is like, if you don't create space for it and you don't listen to them, it's gonna fucking suck. Like, it's gonna get kicked back to you and you're gonna be like, you're gonna be really hurt because your systems are pretty tied together. You're emotionally tied to the person. You're like bonded to them. And then when they pull back or they exit, like it creates a tremendous amount of pain for the man, and the man, his winner effect and his like affect basically like bottoms out. You know what I mean? Like it's tough, dude. Like it's tough on a dude to go through it. So this is my point here, which is like just communicating to you guys that like this is a normal part of it. Like this is a normal part of a relationship, and it takes some getting used to where you're like, okay, I recognize that when I'm in a relationship with a girl that she is going to mirror back to me what I give. It's also going to be very painful for me. So continue to be a savage to everything else, 100%. Still keep that fucking edge and still be a fucking savage. But behind closed doors with your girl, like soft, like open, listening. And I know it can be tough because it's like almost antithetical to your very core of your being. But if you don't, they'll mirror it back. And so you'll lose out on the connection, the fulfillment, the love, like all of the other beautiful gifts that they bring into your life by not. Now, there is a fine line here, or at least I feel that there's a fine line here of like, you got to hold the line, like I'm not talking about being a pussy, and I'm not talking about like just losing your fucking backbone. Like, still be a fucking man, still be a savage, but understanding that you can view relationships as a place to get or a place to give. And if you view them as a place to get, it sucks. It's really not going to feel that good. if you view them as a place to give, caveat being like you'll receive as well inside that relationship, but if you view it as a place to give, you can ask yourself, like, what am I giving here? Like how am I showing up and what am I giving? Because I know that that's what's going to be reflected back to me. And if you know that that is what is going to be reflected back to you, then you can ask yourself kind of like, okay, what do I want here? Now, the other thing that I find interesting is like some guys would view this as like a weakness of like, okay, well, like you're like giving up your power, like you're giving up your frame. But what you're not understanding is like, if you're in alignment here and you're showing up in the fucking relationship, you feel so good that if the girl is out of line, you'll be able to walk. Like, it won't tear you up inside to step back. That is also like kind of what like keeps it in line, like what keeps the energy and the dynamic in line. So like if you're in alignment here and you're showing up in that relationship and the girl is like, you know, not reciprocating, or there's like something at her end, you'll still be in your own personal power and you'll still be able to like walk honestly, and you won't feel bad about it. Like, it's different if you're like in a relationship and you're like not really showing up. Like if you're in a relationship and you're not really showing up, then it's gonna like feel like shit if it doesn't work out. But if you're actually showing up and you're like, nah, motherfucker, like I've been doing the damn thing, and I've been doing it right, then you're like in your own personal power, and you'll feel good about it, dude. Like, you'll be more locked in on your own frame, and you'll be more grounded in your own personal energy, because you're like, nah, dude, like I did the damn thing. Like I showed up, I listened, and transparently, like if it's more on the female front, like she's going to be coming back to you, like, you know, kind of hat in hand. And if she doesn't, you also kind of don't care, because you're like, I did it, dude. You know what I mean? So like there's also clean loss here, right? So like I've had grieving over relationships where I know that like I fucked up, and I know that like I wasn't like in alignment and in integrity, and like those are the hardest ones, because it's such a painful lesson, because you're like, oh fuck, like stomach ripped out, right? Gutted. There have been other ones where like the grieving process is like very clean and very clear, because it's like, okay, well, no, I did show up here, like I did do it right. And it's such a clean loss. It's just like, this is assuming that you have good self-esteem and you have good self-worth, and so you're just like, no, I'm awesome, and you're like, that is on them, and like you feel clean about it and you don't feel upset about it like in any way, shape, or form, because you're like, no, I did the damn thing and I showed up. So anyways, the point of this video is really like, they'll mirror back to you what you give, and how important it is to like look at what you're giving into the relationship, and like looking at how you're feeling about it and assessing it from like, okay, this is what I'm getting back, so this is probably what I've given. And then kind of getting in alignment of like, okay, like what do I actually want this to look like, and giving that kind of in integrity and in alignment. And then you'll feel good. Even if the relationship doesn't work, you'll feel good, because you're like, no, I did it. You know what I mean? So that's my take on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. I put my email below. Drop me an email. Like, tell me what's going on with you, man. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, Todd out. Love you. Talk to you soon. Peace.